The Pentagon is working on a UAP report to Congress. I think it was due on Halloween. Has any version of that report, either classified or unclassified, been delivered? And if not, do you have an ETA on when that might be sent up to the Hill?
Yeah, thanks. So my understanding is that report is being prepared by the Office of the DNI, Director of National Intelligence, so I'd refer you to them in terms of the status. So I'm afraid I won't have anything further until that report comes out.
If I could just follow up, there's been some reporting that Chinese drones may be monitoring U.S. military operations. Has the Pentagon UAP office, I think it's called Arrow now, has it discovered that China is using drones to watch U.S. forces or gather information as part of this process, UAP process?
Sure. I don't have any information on that at the moment, but we'll look into that and come back to you. Thanks very much. Okay.
Yeah. Please look into that, General Ryder. My audience would really appreciate it. So I've touched on the new legislation before, but I wanted to do a full spectrum video on it while we're days away from the UFO report getting released. Anyways, these tweets that will follow are from Dean Johnson, who is following this legislative process as much as anyone that I know. He supports General Ryder's contention. He wrote, "I've seen speculation that the Director of National Intelligence's UAP report was submitted to Congress, but rejected and sent back for a rewrite. Nope, the report has not been delivered to the 8 committees." In another tweet, he writes, "It's not uncommon for congressionally mandated reports to be late. What is a little odd here is that the agency initially gave indications that the designated congressional committees would receive the report on time, October 31st. But then something changed. I just got seeming confirmation that the upcoming UFO report will be dropped this week." Tommy Zito writes, "Good news. I reached out to Representative D. Lamborn office in regards to the upcoming UAP report. Excellent follow-up. Was advised that the UAP report is coming in the coming days. They could not tell me the exact day. Remaining patient and hopeful." It's time to dive into the UAP legislation, and I'll give a shout out to Douglas Dean Johnson, who wrote the article, "Congressional Intelligence and Armed Services Committees Advance New Measures to Probe for Possible Hidden UFO Data," as his article has been very helpful for me in understanding what's going on with the legislation, and it's an article I will continue to consult, and a link to it is in the description below. This bill that we're going to cover is 138 pages, and amazingly, 31 of them contain revamped and expanded UAP-related requirements. From Douglas's article, it appears that this array of new congressional UAP-related proposals were initiated within the Senate Armed Services Committee and the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, which have coordinated to a degree with their counterparts on the House Armed Services Committee and the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. The proposals are advancing with bipartisan support in both houses. Douglas states that there is a high degree of assurance that the NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, and the Intelligence Authorization Act will be signed into law by the end of 2022, as this has occurred each year for the past 61 years. Now, the name of the office has been changing. Stephen Bassett has stated that it changes because the scope of the objective broadens. From my understanding, it was first simply the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force. Then it became the Airborne Object Identification and Management Synchronization Group, AOIMSG. Then it became ARROW, which stands for the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. And now it's going to become the Unidentified Aerospace-Undersea Phenomena Joint Program Office, UAP-JPO. So this is the fiscal year 2023 Intelligence Authorization Act, IAA S4503, as far as I understand, that we're diving into right now. And I'm just going to go over portions of it that I found interesting for those interested in the UAP subject to see what the Congress is asking for from the intelligence community and the military. It writes, the Secretary, in coordination with the Director of National Intelligence, shall designate one or more line organizations within the Department of Defense and the intelligence community that possesses appropriate expertise, authorities, accesses, data systems, platforms, and capabilities to rapidly respond to and conduct field investigations of incidents involving unidentified aerospace undersea phenomena under the direction of the Director of the Office. So this comes down to boots on the ground wherever a UAP incident has occurred with the requisite expertise and equipment to do a proper investigation. This is really a testament to how serious the Congress is in getting to the bottom of the UAP enigma. Science plan. The Director of the Office, on behalf of the Secretary and Director of National Intelligence, shall supervise the development and execution of a science plan to develop and test, as practicable, scientific theories to account for characteristics and performance of unidentified aerospace undersea phenomena that exceed the known state of the art in science or technology, including in the areas of propulsion, aerodynamic control, signatures, structures, materials, sensors, countermeasures, weapons, electronics, and power generation, and provide the foundation for potential future investments to replicate or otherwise better understand any such advanced characteristics and performance. Now, the rumor is that replication efforts have been underway for many decades, and that the United States government has actually recovered downed or crashed UAP vehicles. George Knapp, on a recent Coast to Coast AM episode, stated that verifiable information was provided to Congress. And I quote, he wrote, where he stated on the show, "It's clear that somebody has been sharing information with them, that is Congress. I can tell for sure that there are people who have met with them and have told them not only that there are these legacy programs that have materials, and by materials, I don't mean just scraps of metal from the ground, but intact craft remains, physical remains of beings. Those stories have been floating around for a long time. I know that there are a couple of people in particular who know about this stuff, down to the point of the buildings where this stuff is stashed, who are willing to come forward if they are protected. And now this legislation indicates they will be protected as whistleblowers, that their security clearances will not be revoked, and it's pretty exciting. Core group, not later than 180 days after the date of the enactment of the Intelligence Authorization Act for fiscal year 2023, the Director of the Office, the Secretary of Defense, and the Director of National Intelligence shall jointly establish a core group within the office that shall include, at a minimum, representatives with all relevant and appropriate security clearances from the following: the Central Intelligence Agency, the National Security Agency, the Department of Energy, the National Reconnaissance Office, the Air Force, the Space Force, the Defense Intelligence Agency, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. What's really interesting here is those core groups that will have representatives from them in the upcoming UAP office probably has, at least some of them, UAP programs right now that have been underway for decades. At least that's my opinion. I can't prove it, but it's my opinion. If there's a real phenomena, I've always said, then yes, there are legacy UFO programs. There's no way the most highly funded intelligence military apparatus in the world would measure unknown objects that exceed all known technology and not study it. And it's just that simple. It's just common sense. I think it was Jeremy Corbell who said something to the effect that every branch in the military and intelligence community has a UAP office. I don't know whether that's true, but just through common sense, assuming the phenomena exists and it has been established scientifically within classified channels, I think it's very likely, if not certain, that there are legacy programs. Now, I want to cover an article that came out the day before the UAP hearings from May 16th, 2022, by Bryan Bender. It's titled, "A Skull and Bones Type Vibe, Spy Agencies Grapple with How Much to Share at UFO Hearing. Congress May Need to Create Incentives to Get National Security Officials to Talk." It opens up with, As Congress prepares to hold the first public hearing on UFOs in half a century, the Pentagon and intelligence agencies are feuding internally over how much to cooperate with demands to investigate and share what they know, according to current and former national security officials. Here's another excerpt. But there is a tug of war among competing factions inside the national security bureaucracy that will make it difficult for Congress to compel military branches, spy agencies, national laboratories, and other organizations to come clean, given the long-standing secrecy and stigma surrounding the issue. Quote, without forcing people's hand, it's going to be very difficult to uncover legacy ventures and programs that we know about based on oral interviews we dug up, said a Defense Department official who was involved in the new effort but was not authorized to speak publicly. Quote, there has to be a forcing mechanism. Quote, there has to be something to hold people accountable, but also give them a chance to come out clean for a period of time, the official added, noting that in his experience, the Pentagon Oversight Group has been stonewalled. The official said there are people with knowledge of the phenomena who have yet to contribute to the oversight effort. Quote, these people exist, and they are protecting very interesting information, the official said. The UFO issue may end up being the biggest scandal in human history. The covering up of the existence of non-human intelligence in our skies and oceans, but even more disturbingly, the covering up of potentially the recovering of craft and biological specimens, which encompasses the holy grail of evidence that we're not alone in the universe. I really like the comparison of this potential scandal with the Church Committee. I'm going to read a few tweets from August that I think underscores this potentiality really well. UFO Titan wrote, Chris, in your opinion, with Congress folks like Rubio, Gillibrand, etc. behind the scenes, is there genuine wonder about where this all leads? Or do they know the end result already and are basically acting in a kind of process way to reveal the result in a proper manner? Journalist Christopher Sharp responds, I have no firm information regarding this. The main question is this. Has Congress verified information which has been provided by multiple sources relating to illegal legacy programs? If, as Knapp suggested, these relate to bodies and craft, then we're in unprecedented territory to some extent. The only precedent I can find is the Church Committee, but any legacy programs may spark a paradigm shift for humanity and spark new technologies. Then there is the question of UAP's agenda and our place in the universe, which may be disturbing. An update on the coordination by the United States with allies and partners on efforts to track, understand, and address unidentified aerospace undersea phenomena. An update on any efforts underway on the ability to capture or exploit discovered unidentified aerospace undersea phenomena. An assessment of any health-related effects for individuals that have encountered unidentified aerospace undersea phenomena. The number of reported incidents and descriptions thereof of unidentified aerospace undersea phenomena associated with military nuclear assets, including strategic nuclear weapons and nuclear-powered ships and submarines. In consultation with the Administrator for Nuclear Security, the number of reported incidents and descriptions thereof of unidentified aerospace undersea phenomena associated with facilities or assets associated with the production, transportation, or storage of nuclear weapons or components thereof. In consultation with the chairman of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the number of reported incidents and descriptions thereof of unidentified aerospace undersea phenomena or drones of unknown origin associated with nuclear power generating stations, nuclear fuel storage sites, or other sites or facilities regulated by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. So Congress wants to know if UAP are being tracked, maybe by a legacy UFO program that they have not been apprised of yet. I know that Ross Coulthart, in his book, In Plain Sight, was in touch with a witness that alleges that the United States government, through maybe some aerospace company, I'm not sure on the details, I'm in the midst of reading his book right now, but maybe from some aerospace company actually tracks UAP coming in and out of the ocean. The Congress wants to know what kind of programs may exist for exploitation and capture of UAP themselves. This would go under the umbrella of crash retrieval efforts. They want to know about any health effects that people have had by coming in proximity to UAP. Lots of stories about that. And they want to know about the nuclear connection to UAP. Well, to put it another way, the U.S. Congress, when it comes to knowledge about this phenomena, wants the whole enchilada, baby. Records of non-disclosure agreements, identification of non-disclosure agreements, Secretary of Defense, the Director of National Intelligence, the Secretary of Homeland Security, the heads of such other departments and agencies of the federal government that have supported investigations of the types of events covered by subparagraph A of subsection B1. That means UAP events. And activities and programs described in subparagraph B of such subsection, and contractors of the federal government supporting such activities and programs. Contractors of the federal government supporting such activities and programs is talking about the civilian world, defense contractors. Shall conduct comprehensive searches of all records relating to non-disclosure orders or agreements or other obligations relating to the types of events described in subsection A, and provides copies of all relevant documents to the office. Steve Bassett was on Night Dreams Talk Radio last Sunday and had this to say about that section of the legislation, and I quote, "They are saying here is they want a complete compendium of all of the agreements relating to UAPs, active, not active, classified, not classified, doesn't matter, relating to UAPs that are preventing people from coming forward to speak about the subject. And when they have that, which they will know the information that the NDA is covering, they will know who issued the NDA, and they will know the people living or dead or retired or active that are in fact under that NDA and not allowed to speak. How big that number is, I don't know, but it could be in the tens of thousands. And to be clear, we're talking about speaking about UAPs. You're a pilot, you're a Navy officer on an aircraft carrier, you were involved in surveillance, you were working in underground facilities, and on and on and on. If it relates to this subject, they want some, not public made public, but they want the record of those NDAs so that the office can start assessing which of those are no longer appropriate, what more can people come forward about without concern, and so forth. I just don't have the words to say the implications of this, and I assure you, if you're trying to play games with this issue and delay it and kick the can down the road, the last thing you would do is putting this paragraph in a national defense appropriations bill." This is a great segue into the portion of the legislation that has been referred to as whistleblower protection, prohibition from liability. "It shall not be a violation of any law, and no cause of action shall lie or be maintained in any court or other tribunal against any person for reporting any information through and in compliance with the system established pursuant to subsection B1. Prohibition on reprisals. An employee of a federal agency, an employee of a contractor for the federal government who has authority to take, direct others to take, recommend, or approve any personal action shall not, with respect to such authority, take or fail to take, or threaten to take or fail to take a personal action, including the revocation or suspension of security clearances, with respect to any individual as reprisal for any reporting as described in paragraph 1. Private right of action. In a case in which an employee described in paragraph 2 takes a personal action against an individual in violation of such paragraph, the individual may bring a private civil action for all appropriate remedies, including injunctive relief and compensatory and punitive damages against the government or other employer who took the personal action in a federal district court of competent jurisdiction." So here's some brief commentary, and this is taken from Douglas Dean Johnson's excellent article. "These include provisions crafted to elicit fuller cooperation by the Director of National Intelligence and all intelligence agencies and creation of a secure system to encourage current or past government and contractor employees with UFO data to channel that information to the Central UAP Office and ultimately to Congress without incurring legal jeopardy or risking job reprisals." So, in a nutshell, Congress has produced legislation to get people with information on UAP, whether within inside the U.S. government or working, for example, in a aerospace company, defense contractor, to legally give information on UAP to the UAP office, even if they have NDAs not allowing them. So my understanding is their NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, would not be relevant, more or less, to this process. There's a lot more to say about that, but this video is already running pretty long, and I think you get the gist, and maybe at a future time, we can go further into it as a standalone. Now, for the dessert of this video, I'm going to share a tweet thread by Eric Weinstein, where he discusses his assessment of the 9-day delay of the unclassified UAP report. And as I understand it, the classified version has also not yet been given to the US Congress. These tweets dropped today. We really do give you up-to-date information on the Post-Disclosure World YouTube channel, don't we? James Crossdale writes, "Hey Eric, hope you're having a great day. Any thoughts on why the unclassified UAP report is 9 days overdue?" Eric responds, "Too many people have been told too much. There are 4 moves. A, disclose that it's something, e.g. recovered craft exists. B, disclose that it's a psyops. C, stall and obfuscate. Or D, lie and deceive. C and D are now both short rides and won't work long term. This isn't 1969. If I had to guess, people are trying to figure out how to make C happen. Yet again, nobody wants to go down as the face of D if disclosure is inevitable. And I just can't figure out how a psyop this big could work. Too many sober pilots and military guys, gals. So my guess is people are stalling, trying to make C work to avoid A or at least avoid B. But there isn't enough room anymore to just avoid. Change is coming. Even if they manage to avoid disclosure this time, people can't avoid forever. It's hopeless for those fighting sunlight. Personal note, I don't know how you all stay on this topic. It is so humiliating to be treated like little kids with no need to know. I don't think the people who hold the details have good enough scientists. This turns smart people off, chases away scientific talent. So dumb.
And that is why will the Air Force, why will the United States government withhold information from United States citizens? For what reason?
Because they're treating them like children.
That clip with Major Donald Kehoe is over 60 years old now. And yet, the status quo has maintained. The Air Force, other military branches, our intelligence community, quite frankly, has treated their countrymen like children by insulating the knowledge of this mysterious phenomena from the rest of the country and ultimately the rest of the world. That underscores and establishes scientifically, in my opinion, we are not alone in the universe and we are being engaged by non-human intelligence. Very recently, Chris Mellon, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence, in an interview with Linda Moulton Howe said, hopefully in another year or two, we will know the truth and we won't have to speculate. The documents will come to light. And I hope that's true. And if I were to guess, I think within another year or two, this is all coming to a head, my friend. The UAP cover-up, or truth embargo, however you want to reference it, its time has an expiration date. Eric Weinstein said it very well. The heat is on. Now, I'm going to play the disclosure flute to help usher in the post-disclosure world. A little rusty. Nevertheless, I thank you for watching this video. I put a lot of time and effort into it. Exciting times, muchacho. Lots going on. This isn't a game. We're going on 5 years now. It hasn't imploded. Officials from our government have not come out and said, you know what? Let's tamper down what's going on now. There is no high information zone data of UAP. Let's squash the conspiracy theories. Now, why hasn't that happened when they could have done it and done it fiercely? In my opinion, it's because there's ground truth to this phenomena, and ATIP that was head by Luis Elizondo, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, is only the tip of the iceberg. I do assess there are legacy UAP programs which have been going on for decades with high fidelity data, scientifically proving this phenomena exists, studying it, monitoring it, trying to understand what its agenda is, trying to understand how the technology works, potentially encompassing retrieval of craft and biological specimens. It is what it is. And on we go, baby. Just like that. Please do not forget to subscribe. And if you'd like to support this channel, you can check out my merch shop where I sell t-shirts. You could become a patron. You could become a YouTube member. You could give me a one-time donation. All those possibilities, my friend, are in the description below. Or you could slap a like on this bad boy and I will appreciate it so much. And if you're still watching, please put in the description or the comment box below so that I know you've watched up until this point. Sky. Sky. See you in the next episode. Special thanks to all patrons, YouTube members, those that have bought merch, those that have given me one-time donation. I couldn't do without you. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.